What's happening, guys? Welcome back to another episode of 420 News. It is 421. We almost done the 420. What's happening out there, everybody? Welcome back anyway, and it is good to be back. Had a bit of a break there last week, as I suppose not to get into too many details, but just to give people an update. There was a bit of a very serious family emergency that arose there Wednesday last week. So apologies for the kind of a prompt ending to a Wednesday a week ago's show. Got a kind of a word in the air that there was something serious going down and I needed to leave pronto. So yeah, everybody is good now, I suppose, just following on from that. They're getting the care they need and things like that, I'm not going to get into too many details, I suppose, about the whole thing. But I suppose just to let it be known that everybody is good and that hopefully we won't have any more emergencies like that one last week. It's not a good thing as a dad to be dealing with what I had to deal with. And on top of that, then the other problems that are kind of lingering there, is the always ever existing problem created by cannabis prohibition. But it really breaks my heart when you're dealing with an emergency like that, and you think about it. It's like, how many parents are out there dealing with family emergencies where one of the parents is not present because they've been taken away because of cannabis prohibition or drug prohibition? It's messed up, and it's a real unfortunate situation, because by and large it is often men who get caught up in that, and that leaves the mothers then to deal with those challenging situations, and it's society pays for it then as well. When the mother is not able to deal with that, then the consequences are that there's kids who grow up with problems in our society and go on to be problems in our society. And it's just it's a vicious cycle, and that's part of the effort here on the 420 News, is to try to bring this vicious cycle to an end. To have more sensible drug policies in place where we're not wasting the resources of Gardaí, because looking through the news there last week, the resources of a Gardaí are incredibly needed in society today. There's so many complicated situations out there in society, but drug use is not a complicated one, really. Like, it's not a criminal affair. There is no victim to drug use. Drug dealing, people could argue, there's a victim there, the addicted, but really the victim, the addicted people within that scenario, like, that they're actually more a victim because of drug prohibition than they are a victim to the drug dealers. When you really think about it, I was having a conversation with my eldest daughter, and she was talking about it, that she was talking with this person about with drugs, an adult who was trying to educate her about drugs, and was talking about cannabis being a gateway drug. And she was kind of like, oh yeah, well, it really is when you think about it. That she was saying, like, people start off with cannabis and then they go on to harder drugs afterwards because the cannabis isn't strong enough for them. And I was like, but there, Kelsey, goes, therein lies that fine detail, I goes, is that the cannabis was not strong for them. When what was it not strong enough for? There was an underlying thing there. There was an underlying issue they were trying to use cannabis to treat. And as soon as we had that conversation, she was like, oh yeah, well, actually, yeah, I see that. That's actually a sensible kind of a logical way to think about that. Yeah, I never really actually thought about that, Dad. So it'd be interesting to hear the rebuttal there from maybe the person she was talking to about that. But it's drug prohibition creates so much more of a problem in our society. There's just so many ways in which it creates a problem. The wasting of the resources of a Gardaí, that's a big one. So yeah, it's great to be back, guys. Have a little glass of red wine here, very sophisticated on the show. We also have the volcano heating up there on the side as well. The reason for the red wine here this evening, guys, and I'm only sipping, it's a very small glass, is there is a lovely dinner planned for this evening. So we cracked open the bottle of wine earlier just to let it breathe a bit, and I had to have an old taste to see what it was. It's quite tasty, actually, in fairness. We're going to see how it pairs there now in a couple of seconds with an old volcano bag of crystalline entity. Yes, who's that? Serenable. He says, that alcohol, that poison that kills 8 million people worldwide. Alcohol does kill a lot of people. It's not going to be killing me, though. No, I'll be only having the one small old glass of it there now at the moment. Might have another small glass of it later on along with that meal. Well, I will have a glass of it later on with that meal, but like, that's not going to kill me, at least not straight up. Like, And it's a discussion myself and an old college mate used to have actually, is the hormetic effects of alcohol. It was a debate he used to love to bring up within what was the class? We used to always feck, I can't remember the name of the class anyway that we used to. I think it was natural products actually, natural products, and he used to bring up the debate is wine a medicine, because there's the hormetic effects, there's the anti-hormetic effects of wine, and yeah, it was an interesting argument anyway. But anyway, we got the old volcano chamber here packed up. Yes. Lovely. Now we have to grab the volcano bag from behind the green screen. We give shout outs to everybody out there on the in the hotbox. Yes. And before I give a shout out to everybody in this hotbox, guys, if you don't already know, in the description of the show here today, there's a link where you can join the 24/7 hotbox. So over on Telegram, if you don't know what that is, it's an app in your phone. It's an encrypted messaging app. So it's good for privacy apparently. And through clicking that link, then you'll be able to join that group. Guys, keep in mind it's a public group. Anybody can click that link and join. So just be careful of what you share. My advice would be join Telegram and use an account that you don't use your name with. So if you're going to join, join as Stoner 420, Irish, whatever alias you would like to create for yourself. Get in there, join, and make yourself known. Use any of your screen names that you have up there already or in the hotbox. But it's a great little community over there, and the conversation do be hopping. So it's a great one. Guys, feel free to talk about anything you want over there as well. Bogwan Son, I do agree with you. Signal actually is superior to Telegram. I've kind of looked at that as well, but it just seems to be where the group kind of got started, and it's not that bad. It's still encrypted and all of that, but I do agree with you. Signal is superior there to Telegram. The important thing about Signal and Telegram is neither of them are owned by Facebook. Shout out to anybody on WhatsApp, guys. You are under the watch of Facebook. Although they do say that WhatsApp is still encrypted, meaning that Facebook or the people behind WhatsApp, they can't see what's in your messages. Only you and the person you're sending a message to can see it. And apparently that's how Telegram and Signal work as well. Jared Kelly says Signal is compromised. Very well could be. Very well could be. Send us on an email there or something like that. Message us on over on social media with a link there to as the proof of that compromisation. I'd be interested in seeing it myself, as I do think that Signal was better than Telegram, but if it's compromised, I'd love to have a read off of that. Yummies. Cannabis 83, what's happening? Cannabis 83, one of the many Patreons as well who signed up to the Patreon. Gotta give a shout out to the Daily Talker, Amy Riley. We got who else is out there? I should actually just have a look at all the Patreons actually at the moment. We're not even logged in. Darn it. We had a few new Patreons sign up there as well over the last few days, which was great. Thanks very much, guys. Really do appreciate the support. I'm just trying to look, how do I find my Patreon list over here? Patrons. There, I can't seem to find my list of patrons. Here we go. Yes, got you all. Yes. Shout out to Bobby. Shout out to Thomas, Mr. Tom Tyler. What's happening? Canaman 83. Adam as well. Adam, I'll just say your first name. Won't give away surnames. Actually, sorry, apologies there to Tom. Shouldn't have said that. Daily Talker. We have Laurie out there. We have Mr. David as well. David, you know who you are anyway. We have Jimmy's Touchdown. Don't think Touchdown is your surname, so that's all good. And we have Amy Riley. She uses her name there in the hotbox anyway, so she doesn't mind her surname. Conan as well out there. We have Cliff. We have Raymond. What's happening, Raymond? Nice one as well, Raymond. And John O'Regan. John O also uses his full name out there in the hotbox, so it doesn't mind his surname getting out there. Guys, you're absolute legends, the whole lot of you. I can see here like how long you're patrons for. Some of you have patrons for a number of months. Shout out to Laurie, who's a patron for over 9 months. Thanks very much, Laurie. Guys, you're all absolute legends. Thanks very much, and the support is really much appreciated. All of the funds guys received through the show do go to help fight for cannabis legalization in Ireland, and they do go to support the show. I don't be out there buying myself anything nice at all. I've used funds over the last year or so to buy a camera for the show. We also got an old wireless microphone there recently, and it's also enabled travelling to some protests and stuff like that, which is great, because I currently have like 20 euro to spare a week myself for my own kind of extracurricular activities, and that doesn't go far. That 20 euros to cover petrol and shit like that as well, so no, that doesn't last at all. So guys, you're all legends. Thanks very much there, much appreciated. And anybody else as well, I got to give shout out there to Mistawes. Mistawes there as well says, great to see you back. Hope all is well. Getting in an old donation there through the link of the show. If you use the streamlabs.com/Martin Condon 1, I think it is, you will be able to watch it and send in watch the show and send in a donation through PayPal over there as well, following that link. Oh yes, I'm going to grab my bag, guys, and I will be back 1 second. That volcano noisy. Is it getting picked up by the microphone, I wonder? Yeah, I can see some crinkling by the bags getting picked up. It's the only downside to filling up the bags and using the bags when on a live stream is that the bag is a little bit crinkly. I know people have said get the whip, but it turns out I actually have the old Volcano, the Volcano Classic, so I think there's a few generic whips I can get, generic brands, but the Volcano itself, apparently it doesn't support the whip for the Classic. It's for the new Volcano, so there must be a new attachment piece or something. I'm not too sure. But I'll get the whip some stage. I might get one of those generic ones some stage. I think there was one company called Elevate or something like that. Yes. Oh. This was a DIY bag as well, She probably got the capacity of, I don't know, would you say about 8 lungfuls? 8 good, big, deep lungfuls, that would be like. So I'm just going to sip on this bag like I am the glass of wine. And guys, honestly, like, as much as I like bong hits and stuff like that, there's something about hitting from a Volcano or a vape that the taste is just all that sweeter. So shout out to John Finnegan, says howdy peoples, Mistawes out there as well. Hi everybody, great to see you back, Martin. And John Finnegan says, well deserved break anyway, brother, hope all is good. Man Falls as well says, hope you're well, Martin, on behalf of Wiz and Bob. Nice. Serenable out there as well. What's happening, Serenable? Hunter as well says, managed to make it after your wine then, Martin. Of course, as I said, it was only a sip. That's all we're having. And it pairs quite well, actually, in fairness. Like, if you take a little sip of wine, you just wet the mouth and you get those flavours kind of happening, because it's the same kind of flavours as well in wines. You probably got a lot more flavonoids than you do terpenes in wine, but still, nonetheless, there's terpenes in there as well. So there's a complementary kind of effect between the two. But keep in mind, when you have when you're consuming alcohol, it can potentiate. Is that the effect? Is that the word? It can increase the effects of cannabis then within the system. I suppose it does enhance the effects of THC. So keep that in mind when consuming cannabis and alcohol together. Things can get wavy. Very easy. I am Toby is out there as well. What's happening? I am Toby. Jared Kelly out there as well. Says, shout out to all the criminalised gardeners. And also to those not yet criminalised or who hopefully will never be criminalised, as there's many. Because when I worked in a cannabis grow shop here in Cork City, I was blown away by the amount of closet gardeners there is here in Cork City. Or in County Cork, because there was people travelling from all over the county coming up to the city there to Deep Root Gardening, great gardening store, indoor gardening store. But I was blown away. I was thinking, before I started working in there, that it was going to be maybe one or two people coming in a day. The door, we had a little bell on the door, ding ding, when people come in case you were out the back, you'd hear them, but that thing went all day long, somebody would just leave. I'd be thinking, great, I can go out the back, do the stock. But what would be happening is I would have a customer come into the shop, somebody would drive by and would see that there's a customer in there. They would park up outside and they'd wait for that customer to leave before they would come in. So, you were thinking, job done with that customer there, now go out the back, sort out a bit of stock or something like that, get stacking on the old shelves or something, clean the place up, whatever. Next thing, the door go again. So it was great. You kept nice and busy, and the customers as well were extremely friendly. I used to love when they came in with a sample of their tomatoes they were growing with the indoor gardening equipment in there. But yeah, it was a great happy memories. But yeah, going off on a tangent, I would say it is like the Gardaí, their job, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. In an essence, to find you particularly, I suppose, if you haven't laid a trail of breadcrumbs for them. Because there's so many gardeners out there. If they're to be doing, say, the electricity route, well, what's actually been reported? It's probably people using more than 5,000 kilowatts or something like that, per hour. Something absorbent, crazy like that. If you're a small-time grower, guys, there's so many growers out there. The chances of you getting caught are slim to none, as long as you're doing it, not doing a couple of things such as telling everybody that you're growing and selling your harvest as well. If you're sharing between one or two friends, guys, just make sure that they're trusted friends who, if they were to get caught with the cannabis, we're man enough to go ahead and face the consequences of that. That they're not going to fold under the pressure of the Gardaí, and the Gardaí will put them under pressure to tell them where they got the cannabis from. So just make sure you're just protecting yourselves with those two things. Don't tell anybody, and make sure you can trust the people that you do tell, and you do good. And obviously the third thing, which I kind of mentioned a second or two ago, is just make sure you're not getting crazy, getting fucking big massive light fixtures. Keep your electricity usage for your grow under, I reckon if you keep it under 2,000 2 kilowatt hours, then you'll be doing good. I reckon you'll be doing good on that. If you're using 2 kilowatt hours just on your grow alone, if you're using under that, then you're not going to be on the radar of the cops. Obviously carbon filter and all of that stuff, but that should really go without saying if you're going to become an indoor gardener. Hunter says Martin's going to be wonky by the end of the stream. Not at all, Hunter. We only have a small glass. Pod says a drunken stream would be interesting. Probably something that's not going to be seen here anyways. I don't get drunk at all, at least I haven't in a long time. Stephen Cav out there as well. What's happening, Steve? Hope you're doing good, buddy. Myself and yourself, Steve, dude, we've really got to touch base. I think we've got to do maybe an in-person podcast. Any plans of coming up here to Cork City? Let me know, dude. If I find myself down along the way to Wexford, let's do it then as well. I'll be in touch with yourself. But yes, Steve, I would love to catch up with yourself, and I'd really like to do it in person because we can pass an old bag, we can share an old hoot there together. I'd like to do a few more in-person interviews as well, as most of my interviews, bar the one with Amy Brown, has been, and Jim from Puff and Stuff. Those were the only two interviews I think I've done in person. Oh no, Grams, what's happening? Cassida Strogas is out there as well. Myself and yourself going back, man. We got a 4-hour podcast actually. There's little snippets of that uploaded there on YouTube, but the whole 4 hours is actually available in the audio only version. That's actually the most listened to audio only podcast as well. I believe it has over 1,500 individual unique views as well, so that's something. B Mooney out there as well. Bogwan's son Callum Cully says, never did a dealer lock me up on the block for a 15A. Scatness is out there. B Mooney, I am Toby. Scatness says Signal isn't great for groups. Telegram is probably screened by Russia, but otherwise fine. Yeah, I'm not worried about Russia. They're always over there. unless they come invading here, which I don't see that happening anytime soon. But even then, I'm sure their invasion is going to be around, hey, get that fella in Martin's world. Jared Kelly says, yes, VPN's like a mask, better than doing nothing. Virtual machine like a condom. Yeah, that's it. VPNs are pretty good. I'm kind of a bit laid back, I suppose. Really, I'm less worried about what cops are tracking my online activity. My online activity is minimal. Really, I use for activism, and even then I'm like, yeah, guys, happy fucking days, come on, track me in my activism, go for it, like, do your worst with that information, because all my activism is here anyway. Like, I put out too much content for these guys to be tracking, for me to be worrying about it. I can remember before, being worrying about like typing when I was starting to grow cannabis, like looking at cannabis grow videos and stuff like that, thinking your gaff was going to get raided, because you were looking up how to grow cannabis. Jeez, takes me back actually to be so, I don't know, how would you say, paranoid? Yeah. Dahi Dublin says, personally, I think that when cannabis is used pre-teenage, the brain is still growing, adapting, puberty, etc. These factors with cannabis probably don't blend well. Thoughts, people? Yeah, I suppose I'm still on the fence with that one, really, because I talked about this in the past. My cannabis use started in teenage years, and I would describe it as being a kind of a self-medication, I suppose, in my own right, because when I used cannabis, the benefit I experienced was that I engaged my thoughts. I was much more present, I was much more grounded, and that, at the time, for me personally speaking, was very beneficial, because I was a bit of a wild child. Somebody threw an idea out there, I was like, fucking yeah, let's do that. I wouldn't really think of the consequences, and that got me into a bit of a trouble. I started consuming cannabis. That slowed me down. It made me a lot more present and grounded, and it made me think about things before I did them, and that was a lot more beneficial for me. I thought the outcome there, despite the, what happened later on at 17, getting caught with cannabis, but there was 2 years of fucking great times when cannabis and me had a great relationship and there was no problems. And it wasn't until the Gardaí got involved in our relationship. A love triangle is never good. The Gardaí, they're always wedging in between me and cannabis. Like, it's like, fuck off, Gardaí, you're not wanted here. Like, get out of our relationship. But yes, so I'm on the fence. Like 18, I think, is the age of use. I think that's an appropriate age of use when it comes to non-medicinal use. But like, if you were to ask me, is there teenagers out there who could benefit from some form of cannabis therapies? Yes, I do definitely think that there's a call for cannabis therapies, because again, you look at Ireland over the last, I believe it's 10 years, we've had an increase of 800%, I believe it is. I think it's a 10-year period of prescriptions of antipsychotic drugs to teenagers, to young people in Ireland. That's fucking, there's something that needs to be done there. Like, there needs to be some intervention there, because we don't need as many young people on these kind of drugs, and many of these drugs, they're for life for a lot of them, or at least until they get into their older years. But what's the effect of these drugs sometimes in the mind, and is cannabis maybe a less detrimental drug there to be used for? Like, I see some great things out there for kids with autism and stuff like that, kids who are on the spectrum. So again, I think there's a lot of room there for debate. But I suppose when we're talking about adult use, 18. 18 is the age. I think 18 is the age at which you, as a person without any medical problems, can walk in and kind of say, I would like to try some cannabis. I'm 18. There's my ID. I'll prove I'm 18. Happy days. I think there's room for debate there to increase it to 21. But I think then I think that should be had around all drugs. I think, if you're going to do it for cannabis, do it for alcohol, do it for tobacco. That's a different debate to be having then, isn't it? But for medical use of cannabis, then I think that there is no limit. Again, you got a kid born having seizures and stuff like that. Oh, try a cannabis spray. Happy days. So again, I think there's a lot of ambiguity there for around that conversation. But yeah, 18 for adult use, I suppose that's what you were talking about. Lisa Green out there, what's happening? Lisa Green says, hey Martin, can I private message you at some stage for a chat? Yeah, of course, Lisa. I'll check out my Facebook private messages there later on, and yeah, get your message there and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Scatna says, it could help deal with the hormonal imbalances typical in puberty. Yeah, there you go. I definitely do think that there's uses for cannabis for teenagers, kind of dealing with these hormonal imbalances and things like that. What would be the mood dysregulation, energy dysregulation? But it's definitely an interesting conversation for, I suppose, health professionals to be having. Really, it's kind of, it's no good us talking about this because none of us are really qualified in that area. I suppose I'm somewhat, given the herbal science background, the honours degree. But still, I would have a lot of work there to be done. I'd need a lot of clinical experience and whatnot. So, but it is an interesting conversation. Um, I see Dai's having some problems there getting comments. Scatness, that's a very strange. Good point. I don't disagree with you. Lads, I can't take part in the live chat through YouTube with Google Chromecast. Any suggestions other than throw it out the window? That sucks. I've no solutions there, but I see John Finnegan's giving you some solutions anyway. Hopefully, John Finnegan is able to help you out there. I've no experience with Chromecast myself. Toto's out in the audience. What's happening, Toto? Rain and Rocks out there as well. Anybody else? Callum, I got you earlier, I think. Jared Kelly, Surprise Mofos out there. I am Toby. Hi and Homegrown, what's happening, Mackie? What's happening? Great having a chat with you there the other night, buddy. Hunter as well. Scatness saying, don't tell anybody that's impossible, and everybody you smoke with recognises your weed as homegrown right away. But again, you don't have to tell them it's your homegrown. You know a buddy who grows. I think that's the most used excuse by growers out there. It's like I got it off a buddy who grows his own. Not saying that that's an excuse that I use. I've never used that excuse before. Hi Homegrown, it's not just the police to be scared of. Rule number 1, don't tell, never break that rule. Says the guy with a podcast where he shares with everybody that he grows his own weed. Jokes. Obviously, you got a secret identity, don't you, Mackie? Mackie's not your real name, is it? Huh? And you obviously don't look like a mushroom, do you? Barry Fields is out there. What's happening, Barry Fields? And Stephen Cav says he'll do his best to get back to me. Nice one. Cassidus Drogas, yes, shout out there. Tommy Wahart, hello lads, how are you keeping? What's happening, Tommy? Welcome to the Hot Box. So many names, guys. It's great to see the Hot Box hopping there today, guys. A nice foggy one in there. I'm so foggy, having a hard time getting to all your names. Oh my word, how I missed this, guys. 30 minutes into the stream, we haven't done a tab of news. The first bit of news I have for you today, guys, is a bit of my own news, actually. We'll get to it in just a sec. Anybody else out there? Scanus Serenable. Variable Gardener. What's happening? There's a new one. I think we had yourself in the past in the hot box, but it's been a while, Variable Gardener. Hopefully we are keeping well out there. And that's everybody. Yes, that's everybody in the hot box for now anyway. Hunter says, I don't normally take Pharmamate, but had to for the tonsils. It got rid of it. It did kill me for 3 days though, and now I'm getting over it. Just falling apart at the moment. Yes, if you had to take some antibiotics, man, get those old bennies, the old beneficial bacteria back into you, start repopulating that gut. Antibiotics, they do have their place. I'm not anti-pharma myself, but I'm certainly, kind of more natural approach to the reduce, try to prevent yourself from getting sick, through taking care of yourself and stuff like that. When you do start feeling yourself getting sick, let's say a sore throat, the old honey, a bit of salt and water, a few gargles of salt and water, and stuff like that. Obviously, if you got tonsillitis, then of course, you have to probably reach for something a bit stronger then. But to each their own. I'm not anti-pharma, but I suffer with sciatica, and sometimes that sciatica, man, that can get bad. And honestly, I don't think there's a strain of weed out there strong enough to take away the pain that I get sometimes from the sciatic nerve. Herself suffers with chronic pain as well, and she at times would have some Solpadeine on hand, and man, that takes away the sciatica in 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I've tried taking Panadol and stuff like that in the past, man. No, you need something a bit stronger. That codeine, man, does that take away the sciatica? Might get it maybe twice a month. I think my sciatica is actually related to my diet. I think when sometimes I go a bit heavy on the old gluten, go a bit heavy on the old pasta and the pizza and shit like that, and my sciatica, I think that flares up then, so I tend to be a bit careful there with that. Tried to keep myself a bit high in the fats, a bit high in the protein, and low on the carbs. But we do tend to let loose from time to time, as you can see. It's like once in a while, it's nice to kind of splurge out and enjoy yourself within limits too. Yeah, Hunter says it there. Same as you, Martin. It's got its place, but prefers natural if possible. Exactly. There's only so much natural can do, and then you really do have to call out the big Y's with the big guns. um, but right, let's get stuck in, guys. My news today. I don't have a fancy lower third there for this, as I was busy with my small man earlier on this afternoon. But my own news today, guys, the November 5th, remember the 5th of November, guys. Can you remember that National Legalized Cannabis Day here? You know what we did for that? We rolled up some fine cannabis joints, myself and a number of other cannabis activists from all around Ireland, I might add, and we sent them to all of the TDs across Ireland. Well, a local TD here, local in fact of County Cork, in East Cork. So an East Cork TD has reported myself to the Gardaí. So that East Cork TD has handed in the cannabis joint which was sent to him to the Gardaí, filed a report about it, obviously probably gave in a statement as to, oh yeah, I received this, opened the mail, and there was cannabis joint there, and that's how I'm in the possession of cannabis. So there was a number of possible suspects in this. As I said, it's an East Cork TD, as it was the Middleton Garda who got onto me. So the Middleton Garda, that's down in East Cork. So there's 5 East Cork TDs. So for me, I've got a very likely suspect, and I'll give you a reason why I've got a likely suspect, because it's the Middleton Gardaí. So I'm assuming this person is local to Middleton. So when you look up the East Cork TDs, you've got Sean Sherlock. Sean Sherlock is with Fine Gael, and you look at his office there. That cannabis joint would have been sent to Mallow. So down in Mallow, so that would have been the Mallow Gardaí if it was Sean Sherlock. So it's not Sean Sherlock by process of elimination. James O'Connor, then we get a little bit closer to a possible suspect. He's below in Youghal. Now Youghal, I believe Youghal does have its own Garda station, I think, but it's possible that it could be James O'Connor, because I'm not too sure if Youghal has its own Garda station. I think they could be using Middleton Garda station as well, as I think it's the Middleton Garda that we're dealing with, that missing lady, there's a Tina Satchwell, is it, who's been missing for quite a while. I think it's the Middleton Gardaí dealing with that. But possible. I'm not ruling out James just yet, but it's possible it's not him. I would kind of hope that, given he's young, I think he was the youngest of all the TDs elected in all of Ireland. I think this guy is only like 20 or something like that, maybe 21. I think he's quite young. So I would think, that being young and probably being ageist in saying this, but you would think he'd have a bit more sense than to hand it in. Sure, you just fucking throw it in the bin, or maybe sneak out the back and have an old hood off it himself. But I don't think it's James. The next, Pat Buckley. So Pat Buckley then from down in East Cork. Pat Buckley is, his office was above in Dublin too, in Kildare Street, Leinster House. So that's where I would have sent that joint, because the addresses I used for most of the TDs was from the Oireachtas.ie. There was one or two who gave the Leinster House address, and I kind of went out of my way to find their constituency office. Pat Buckley was not one of those, so I would have been sent that to Leinster House. So that would have been part of the news article there, that like my cannabis joints, the cannabis joints that were sent as part of that campaign, not mine, the campaign's cannabis joints, they breached the Doyle's, Leinster House's like multi-million euro security system. So that kind of was part of that news article. So it wasn't Pat Buckley, because he would have went to Dublin Gardaí. David Stanton then. So, sorry, it was only 4 TDs. I thought there was 5 TDs down there in East Cork. Did I miss one? Not too sure. David Stanton then. I think he's the most likely suspect, as he's addressed here as being down below in Middleton. I think there was a Sinn Féin TD actually down there that I'm missing out on. But David Stanton is part of Fine Gael. So I think he's the most likely suspect myself. But again, that's the evidence I'm going by, is basically on their constituency address. So I'm assuming his address is Middleton, so he would have went straight to the Middleton Garda then with that. So David Stanton saw fit to waste the Garda's time, you know. He got that letter there, you know. That letter which you all have seen, highlighted the aim of the campaign to highlight the waste of time that was going on as part of prohibition of cannabis. He went and he fed into it. He added to the waste of time, you know, despite reading the letter and seeing all of the reasons on the back of the letter then as well. He still saw fit to go down there to the Middleton Garda station. So because of that, I think David Stanton is going to be getting a visit from myself down below there. Again, it might not be David, and my energy might be misplaced and all of that, but again, you know, it's going to be light-hearted and it's going to be nice. It's going to be civil. That's the most important thing. My knock on his door, my appearance at his office, it's going to be a civil appearance. I'm not going to be irate. I'm not going to be frustrated with the guy or anything like that. I'm just going to be going down there again and as on a mission of education, but also doing my civic duty too. You know, engaging in a civil disobedience protest. So that'll be happening in the not too distant future down there at 29 St Mary's Road, Middleton, County Cork. So stay tuned for more on that. And I will update you guys on this as it develops. I have an appearance that's going to happen over the next week or so down at the Middleton Garda station. There's a Garda down there dealing with this. I'm not going to name him here. But I'm going to be meeting with that Garda. I'm going to be giving a voluntary statement similar to the one that I gave as part of the campaign in the city when I was planting the cannabis plants out. I gave a voluntary statement there, and I was giving a cautionary charge, I think it was said, of cultivation of cannabis and stuff like this. But anyway, I'm going to have to go down there to the Middleton Garda, give a statement. Guys, what a waste of time. What an absolute waste of time that David Stanton, a TD, you know, he took the time, or maybe someone from his office took the time, but he wasn't dealing with his duties then as a TD. He was fucking dealing with other things. I don't know if like he went out of his way to bring this joint. Like everybody else who got involved in this, like just throwing them in. I'm like Frank Fian. I haven't gotten a phone call from the Sligo Garda station yet. So Frank Fian, I'm assuming, just probably ripped it up and threw it in the bin. He's probably used to getting letters and stuff like this. Well, probably not joints in the mail. But still, nonetheless, I haven't heard anything from Frank Fian, but David Stanton did it. So guys, if you're down there in East Cork and if you thought David Stanton was a guy to vote for, think again. Not that anybody listening to this show would be a Fine Gael voter, I wouldn't imagine anyway. Let's get this bag filled back up. Excuse me. And while we are enjoying the wine here on the show today, guys, it's important while you are consuming alcohol to also consume some water, guys. Water is a harm reduction material when it comes to alcohol drinking. You know, space those drinks out. For every pint of beer, you should be probably drinking a pint of water. Just waiting on this bag there to fill up, guys. But yeah, that's my own news, I suppose, coming out of East Cork. Got no updates yet on the charges there for the planting of the plants in the city. I've also gotten no follow-up contact from last September? Last September I was supposed to, that was when the deadline was for me to pay €400 to the Irish courts for my €10 cannabis joint. So I got caught with €10 worth of cannabis in the form of a cannabis joint. I went to court for it, I got fined, I got convicted, so I got a criminal conviction now for the rest of my life for possessing that, but I also got a fine of €400, which I'm refusing to pay. And that deadline was, I believe it was the 11th of September. I think that was it, or maybe that's just coming to my mind because of the symbolic date in September. But I never paid it, and I've not heard from him now. September, obviously the 9th month of last year, so that would have been, 7 months ago now? Still haven't heard from them. What's going on there? There's probably going to be an arrest warrant issued for me because of that. A €10 worth of cannabis joint, like, you know, it's hilarious. But obviously, look, our Irish Gardaí are used to be having their resources wasted on this, and they're only probably happy to do so. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I will keep you updated as you know, things develop. If we ever end up in Cork prison, don't worry, we've got arrangements there. The show will go on, and you will be notified. So don't worry at all. Andy saying, sad excuse of a politician, and that no news ever came out of West or East Cork. Sorry. He says West Side is the best side. Yes. Well, is it West Side? Yeah. Damn it. Come on, do it. Pick it. You always have to kind of. No, I got fecked up fingers, man. I can't do that thing, East Side, West Side. East Side is the best. Popping gang signs here now, guys. I got East Cork, West Cork wars going on there later on. James PGR says I can shop Gorilla Skittles. Nice, lucky you. Wish I could get some Gorilla Skittles. Even though I have crystalline entity here in the vape, so it's I'm not complaining. Very well, Gardner reckons Sherlock is after me. Or he says, oh wait, never mind. Oh. Only thing about the volcano on the vape is it can be very tickly on the throat, alright? Yeah, throw the middle finger mofos. And who else is saying? Who's saying that? Their Tupac would be ashamed. I know, Mackie. Throw the middle finger mofos. Jared Kelly says Casa de Strogas will continue the podcast. That's a very good suggestion, actually. Maybe I should have a chat with old Casa and have that arrangement. That's not the arrangement that was put in place, but I'm sure that would be a very good replacement there. Casa de Strogas jumping on here and filling in. Guys, should be said that was the original intention, that Martin's World was not actually originally meant to be Martin's World. I picked up the 2 microphones and some recording equipment, and myself and Graham, we were having chats at the time, and it was supposed to be something there that there was going to be a project between the two of them, but obviously Casa got caught up with other stuff going on with himself. He was busy there in other ventures and things like that, and totally understandable. So I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead, Martin's World, let's do this. Let's get it out there. And that's kind of what happened then. That's when Martin's World was born. So originally it was intended to be kind of a 2-person show. I was hoping for it to be a 2-person show. I was kind of, I probably wouldn't have went and got the equipment if it was just going to be myself. And then I had the equipment, I had the intentions, and I was just like, fuck it, let's just pull the trigger and let's go with it. And I'm happy I did. I really am. No regrets. Tom Tyler said someone should plant some ganja in all the cops' gardens and report them. That's certainly something I've been doing. I've actually, that's part of one of my charges there is of the cultivation is outside of the Mayfield Garda station. So one of those cannabis cultivation charges that I received last month, that was for planting a cannabis plant outside of the Mayfield Garda station. So I initially thought that one was cut up by a lawnmower up there because the grass got cut. But it seems the Gardaí actually went out there not long after I had left and had removed the plant because that was only one plant and they had to charge for up there, so they had the plant. So that was an interesting one. Variable Gardener says tickling the throat means it's working also. Yeah, that's us out there. Disagree. Indication of its potency. Tom Tyler says someone should. Oh yeah, we read that. Someone should plant the plants outside the guard station. Mackie there, GB would do it in a gimp mask, I'm sure. Go on, GB. GB just would do anything in a gimp mask, I'd say. Anything. Jokes. Let's drive on, guys. We talk about waste of resources, and this is kind of feeding off that, because our Gardaí are incredibly strained in Ireland. There's always calls from politicians. Politicians love to get their name out there after a horrendous occurrence in our community happens. in Cork, we had TDs jumping on the bandwagon saying, oh, we need more Gardaí after an acid attack happened here. And in Dublin more recently then, I believe it was just earlier today, a guy was shot up there, and this person was given, a warning that there's, hey, come here, there's a threat on your life. And obviously the threat is the warning wasn't taken seriously enough, and unfortunately this person has lost their life. This is a guy by the name of James Whelan. James Whelan, he's 29 years of age, and this is believed to be part of a feud between the Kinahan drug gang above there in Dublin, and what's the other drug gang that was mentioned here in this? Let's just get through the article. Local councillors calling for more Garda resources in Finglas after a fatal shooting this morning. Councillor Keith Connolly said that the Greater Garda presence is needed as soon as possible due to a number of ongoing feuds in the area. Gardaí and emergency services rushed to a fatal shooting at Deanstown Avenue at 4:30 a.m, where 29-year-old James Whelan was pronounced dead at the scene. The Councillor Connolly told Dublin Live that action needs to be taken immediately to help the community feel safe. He said a 29-year-old man has lost his life and further Garda resources need to be allocated in this area. That's the main feel I'm getting. I'm sending my condolences to his family. Anyone with information should contact an Garda Síochána. Says Gardaí are currently appealing for witnesses. A Garda spokesman said Gardaí and Finglas continued to investigate a fatal shooting incident. Blah, blah, blah. Nothing else of importance there. Man in his 20s, pronounced dead at the scene. Yeah, technical examinations, blah, blah, blah. Nothing else important there really in the rest of that article. That's up there in Dublin Live. But again, think about this. You got the prohibition of drugs that's going on out there. And the Gardaí, well, you want more Gardaí out there patrolling, but if the Gardaí are out there patrolling and they see the likes of me, well, I'm not carrying a gun. I'm not going to be out there shooting anybody. But they're going to stop and search me because why? I'm known to the Gardaí. I'm known to be in possession of cannabis. So they're going to be out there stopping and searching me. And how many other young fellas out there that are stopping and searching? They're wasting their time. Again, that all under the prohibition of drugs. But again, why is there violence like this on our streets? Again, the Kinahans, these are drug gangs. These are organised crime gangs, they call them. But again, their organised crime is drug dealing. That's it. They get their hands into other bits and pieces and stuff like that. But the vast majority of their money is coming from drug dealing. Prohibition creates that. Again, prohibition, I suppose organised crime gangs, they're a plant. They're a plant. And how do you get a plant? You need to plant the seed. And the only way that the seed that was planted that these organised crime gangs grew out of was drug prohibition. I think that's a good analogy there, is that organised crime gangs are the plant and the seed that created them, it was drug prohibition. That was a seed at which these organised crime gangs, again, much like the is Al Capone and stuff like that back during alcohol prohibition. Those guys were born, they were the seed that they grew out of was alcohol prohibition. We removed alcohol prohibition, along came Heineken, along came, Jameson and things like that, and away went the organised crime gangs that once kind of fueled or ran the movement of alcohol when it was prohibited. Again, much the same can happen here again. We end the prohibition of cannabis, and again, we end the prohibition of all drugs. I think, provide people a safe and regulated avenue to whatever their drug of choice is. Again, I think there needs to be expert committees drawn up and develop ways in which people can get access to it. I think it should be run in a way by the state, where it's like not for profit. I don't think we need any more drug industries that are profit driven. I think that's just problematic. I think there needs to be a bit more community orientated. I think community cooperative, kind of not for profit collectives are the way in which to do it. But again, that's just me. Let me know what your opinions are. Tinkle Tink says the guards are a strange breed. It's. I described them earlier on today as a bunch of brain dead people who are not allowed to think for themselves. And you have to be brain dead to listen you have to be brain dead to get into a situation where you're not allowed to think for yourself. If you're within the ranks of the Gardaí and you disagree with drug prohibition, but you still go out there and you enforce it, well, sorry, you're a brain dead idiot. Listen to yourself. Come on, turn your brain on. Start thinking for yourself. Because you already, you disagree with it, but you're not thinking for yourself. Come on, act on that, Tinkle Tink says, 29-year-old man has lost his life. I think we should start a petition to find it. There's been 2 cops posted near me all day, every day, because of a threat to life for over 1.5 years. And that's coming in there from Rashers. Such a waste of time, isn't it? Like, the threat to life, they know where it's actually even coming from. Like, so a lot of these people that are known to the Gardaí, they're known for being drug dealers, they're known for being like fucking hitmen and shit like that. And the Gardaí, like, they're just leaving them off. Like, they'll nod and smile at them going down the road. They'll wave at them. The boys will be waving at each other. It's such a weird system. And then you got like good people out there, Bhagwan's son, you got so many good people out there in the audience who are regarded as criminals and will be treated as so before the courts. It's such a twisted system. John Finnegan, yes, nice one there. He says, tap the like button, boys, hit that thumbs up. Niall Knock says, Martin, what is your take on the US House of Representatives passing the MORE Act for the second time? Will the Senate pass it? If passed, it would end the federal prohibition on cannabis. Yeah, Niall, I suppose many people, I get this off the screen there. That was something I was going to get to a bit later on in the news, but as it's come up there in the hot box, let's get right to it. So recently, guys, if you weren't already in the know, the US over there, basically when a bill goes before to be voted on, it has to go through the House of Representatives, and then it has to go through the Senate. And then once it goes through the Senate, then it gets signed into law or whatever the case may be over there. So recently, the MORE Act, which is the Marijuana Opportunities and Reform and Education Act, I think that's what MORE Act stands for. But that got approved at the House of Representatives, so now it's going to go to the Senate. Most of the commentators are saying that it's going to die on the Senate floor. Look, I'm always the optimist. I think that if there's a chance, there's a chance, and I'm always going to hold on. I'm always going to hold on. I don't care how small the fucking candle is left, you know what I mean? There's some hope left there. If that candle is still burning, I'm going to hope that, it's going to hold tough and it's going to shine on through. So that there's a chance that it could pass. Again, people were thinking that it wasn't going to get past the House of Representatives. It got passed. Again, it's a bipartisan bill, and there seems to be support and contesting on both sides. There's Democrats who voted against it. There's Democrats, our representatives who voted for it, or Republicans who voted for it. So again, it'll be an interesting outcome. I would be very surprised if it passes. I'm hoping that it would pass. I will be surprised if it passes the Senate, because so many commentators are saying that it's going to fail there. I would be surprised if it passes, but if you were to ask me, will it pass? I hope it passes. Will it pass? I don't know. But I hope it will. I'll always hold on to that hope. I'm holding on to that hope. I'm gonna cradle that little flame that's burning there. That little shred of hope. I'm gonna candle that, and I'm gonna hope that I can protect it until sunnier times. The ending of federal prohibition. Again, what's the arguments to keep the federal prohibition in place? I think they have 37 states now that have repealed cannabis laws in some way, where they've either got medical or actual full adult access. I think the number that have got full adult access is somewhere close to 16 to 17, I think. But 37 now have got either or medical or adult use. So, again, there really is a need, because there's the states that have allowed for adult use. They need to allow now for interstate commerce. So that means that growers in California can sell to the grower or to retailers in Nevada or New York as well, places like that. So again, there needs to be the lifting of the federal prohibition to allow this to happen, so that we can really see the removal then of the black market. Because again, with the federal prohibition remaining in place, that's keeping in place the black market. And a lot of the commentators here and in other places outside of America, people who are supportive of prohibition, they point to that and they say, hey, look, they legalized cannabis in certain places, but yeah, look, see, the black market still exists there. The black market exists there because cannabis is illegal still in other states. because cannabis is illegal in their states, then there's going to be criminals who will move into that state where it's legal. They'll grow there in order to export it to the not legal state then, because they'll get more money for it there. There's no point in growing cannabis in somewhere like I don't know, is does Idaho still, I think Idaho, I think that still has like prohibition in place. Like if you're in Idaho and you grow cannabis and you get caught like that, you're going into jail and shit like that. You're going to be punished. You move into a Nevada or somewhere like that, into a legal state, and you start growing. It's like, happy days, that's legal. And now you start selling it to people in Idaho because you can get more money for it there. Like, that's how the black market still exists in legal states. So it's a big problem, it is. But the problem is because prohibition exists still in other states neighboring. It's just like, a prohibition is so toxic that it not only creates problems in the states where it exists, but it creates problems in neighbouring states that have lifted prohibition. They still have this fucking effect there for neighbouring a place where prohibition exists. And you can see that too, like in border towns, places that border not legal states. Their border towns, when a dispensary opens up there, well, they get a lot of tourists visiting from out of state. So yes, there is a serious need for the lifting of federal prohibition, and I really, really do hope it happens this time. Jared Kelly says Republicans like money too, and taxes in a country that is in a serious debt like us are here. Yeah, that's it. So again, let's hope that after so many states, as I said, have introduced adult cannabis use, or legalized adult cannabis use. Let's hope that the statistics coming out of those states support the lifting of federal prohibition. That those with the power to vote in favour of it will see the sense in doing so and will vote accordingly. They will lift it federally. I hope so. There's so much evidence out there in support of it right now. So let's see what happens. MB Sanchez, who's over there actually, who's a bit closer, that this would be a little bit closer to home, has this to say. Says the trouble with the bill is in the details. It's got hideous punishment and huge fines for possession of any untaxed cannabis. It's a prison filling scheme. Don't fall for it. So, see, there you go. There you go. This is the problem with some of these fucking bills. I think there was a very good article I read last week, and I should have saved it actually to go back over it. And it talked about it like this. It goes that these bills, that these will never get passed because they overcomplicate it. They introduce these punishments, they introduce a new form of prohibition, a new form of criminalising people, such as MB Sanchez talked about here. And he talked about it, that the process of legalisation at a federal level is much simpler than these bills are making out to be. That basically talks about rewording something in the tax laws over there in the US, and also something about the scheduling of cannabis as well. There's like 2 or 3 things there, nice simple things that need to be done, and that there doesn't need to be these massive bills, hundreds of pages long, that overcomplicate things. It's like you just sort out where they can actually tax it, and I talked about states can tax it and stuff like that, because I think and that allows for the banks then to work with it. I think that's what it was talking about there. It talked about the interstate commerce, and it talked about the descheduling. 3 things. But yeah, I would agree with the MB Sanchez as well. While I would be hoping it passes, and I think it's great if it passes, there is going to be stuff in there. There's stuff in there that's going to fucking screw people again later on down the road, But I think there's hopefully going to be more good than bad come out of it. But again, as I said, the bill is hundreds of pages long. I haven't read through it all, so you're a lot closer to home. It's a lot closer to home, so I'm sure you've read most of it there, MB Sanchez, or will know about it. You're close to the growers over there as well in the industry, giving your great podcast as well. Guys, check it out if you haven't already done so as well. MB Sanchez is a part of the what's the name of it again? I have to look it up there now again. Crap, what was the name of it again? Shit. I'm on your Discord as well, like, so that makes it even worse. Oh man, it's probably in the hot box there now. Right, if not, I'm going to get it. I'm determined to get it. So that's Growcast. Yes, nice one, MB Sanchez. Growcast, guys. My apologies, MB Sanchez with Growcast over there with Jordan as well. I got interviewed by Jordan. I never got to meet yourself, MB Sanchez. But Growcast, guys. There you go. Great podcast as well. Full of information about growing cannabis, and they get in some great guests there as well. From the cannabis growing industries. But sorry, fucking brain melt there. And we also just missed 420 there as well, guys. So it's 420 over there in the Azores and in Cape Verde. Big purple leaf on the logo, says John Finnegan. So John Finnegan knows you there anyway, guys. John Finnegan in the audience. He knows all about Growcast. My apologies, Growcast. I couldn't get high and homegrown out of my head. I kept on thinking homegrown, high and home. I was like, no, that's the boys. I knew that obviously wasn't E, but homegrown was in my head for some reason. Growcast, check it out, guys. Finish off this last little sup here. Oh. Kind of do the same with my coffee and weed in the morning. Take a little sip of coffee. Take a little sip of the weed. Coffee and weed just pair so well. A variable gardener says happy almost 20. Tinkle Tink says prohibition is all about control over the so-called masses, nothing to do with health. There you go, that's true. It's so fucking true. Because it's really like if prohibition was about the health of people, then there would be a prohibition of like things like foxglove. There would be prohibition and things like skydiving and shit, surely, you know, prohibition and, you know, the excessive buying of McDonald's for families, you know, and low income and stuff like that, because that is a big problem out there in society. I definitely do think that there is big health problems out there, but obviously I'm not calling for the introduction of these kind of prohibitions, am I? I do think people should be allowed to go skydiving. I do think people should be allowed to have control over the amount of times that they visit McDonald's if they so wish. And I do think people should be allowed to grow cannabis and as much of it as they would like to too. Adam O'Brien says, anyone seen the post about secondhand bong smoke being more harmful than cigarettes secondhand smoke? I'm calling bullshit. Adam, you're an absolute legend. You're bringing up the next the headline. Well, it's not the next headline, actually. You're making me jump along. That was going to be the last headline for today. So we might leave it there. Adam, I'll get back to you. I have seen it, and it is lined up because let's just keep going with the headlines, because, you know, while I was talking about this one above there in Dublin and the gangland shooting stuff like that above in Dublin, this one is coming out of Cork, where a Cork TD warned that someone will be badly injured or worse amid drug gang intimidation. And this is coming out of Cork with Thomas Gould, who's a TD for Sinn Féin. And he talked about at a recent a joint policing committee here in Cork, about the problem of drug intimidation and the increase of it in Cork City. And his comments within the Cork City Joint Policing Committee prompted a response there from the most senior Garda, and that's Chief Superintendent Tom Myers. And he appealed to families who have been subjected to intimidation because of drug deaths to report the incidents to the Gardaí. And this is after he says that he's not saying it's not happening out there, but it's just not that. It's just that he's not getting too many complaints into the Garda headquarters here in Cork. He says, I am aware from my former life in the drug unit that it is very intimidating for families of people who owe drug money to drug dealers, and the intimidation can be very, very serious matter. He urged people to come forward if they've been subjected to such threats, and those measures will be thoroughly, and those matters, I'd imagine that should say said here, will be thoroughly investigated, I can assure you. But the problem here is that people are fearful. They're fearful that the Gardaí are not going to be able to protect them. They're fearful that if they go to the Gardaí and report incidents of drug intimidation, is that what it is? Drug intimidation? Drug debt intimidation, yes. So if they go and report drug debt intimidation to the Gardaí, that they're going to be found out and they're going to be treated as criminals will treat other criminals who are rats, and that their windows will be getting broken, their cars, will be getting targeted and stuff like that. They'll be getting targeted as they're walking down the streets, and that's the fear, that the Gardaí are not going to be able to protect them. Because why? Look what happens above there. Look what happens. People above in Dublin getting shot dead on the street. This happened at 4:30 in the morning, but nonetheless, the Gardaí knew that there was a threat to this man's life, and they weren't be able to protect him. Like, how safe do you feel then if you were to go disclose to the guards that, hey, so-and-so there that I owe, fucking a couple of €1,000 to is threatening me, and he's going to break up my he's threatening my son. He's going to kill my son. He's, threatening to chop up my son if I don't cough out the money there now. Like, how safe do you be? Like, in fairness, like, there's already after been a threat made on your life or the life of a family member, quite often off a young son, a young male person. And you expect those people to go forward to the guards. Come off the stage, like, again, when you got incidents like this out there, when this guy was warned by the guards, hey, there's a threat in your life, and he still ends up shot dead. Like, come on, like, get off the stage. Speaking with the Sunday World, then Thomas Gould, he disclosed with Thomas Gould how I went off it there. How he's becoming more aware of an escalation of the problem within his community. He says there's always been intimidation related to drug debts where young people run up debts and the family would then be pursued to pay it off. But like, if he's always been aware of this problem, why isn't he more active in doing something about it? Because most young people today, like that, they're not running up drug debts related to cocaine use. No, many young people today, they're running up drug debts related to cannabis. And then because of their drug debts related to cannabis, they end up having to store things like cocaine or heroin. Or maybe not just store it, but transport it. A young person there, 16, 17, give them a couple of 50 bags a week there, and you look, hey, come here, you owe me a few €100 there now, look. Bring this bag there across the road, look, and we'll knock €100 off it. Come back tomorrow there, look, and you have to run a bag there somewhere else again, and we'll knock another €100 off the day. And that person's a drug runner, like, do you like doing that there, right? Look, you don't owe me any more money, but look, I'll give you another €100 there if you do it again. And then before they know it, they're getting paid for doing it now. They're no longer fucking working off their drug debts, but that's an excuse they'll use when they get to court. And then people like Thomas Gould are aware about it, but they're doing nothing about it, like nothing much about it. Going in here and calling for, more Gardaí or whatever, like, just, again, what are more Gardaí going to do? All more Gardaí are going to do is they're going to put more people before the courts who shouldn't be before the courts, i.e. drug users and drug dealers. As much of a problem as drug dealers are seen to be, again, they're created because of drug prohibition. If you hate drug dealers, the best way to get rid of them is ending drug prohibition. And then you're going to have cannabis retailers, you're going to have chemists possibly that are going to stock certain substances for certain drug users, But again, it's an easy one to end for young people today. Their entryway to this is cannabis. If we can end cannabis prohibition, then we can do a major favour for the young people growing up in Irish society today by removing the access that the organised crime gangs have to them by lifting the prohibition of cannabis, But again, Thomas Gould, he goes on to say to the Sunday World that those young people and their families are threatened with violence by drug dealers who are coming to their doors. It's a level that it has never been at before. He says, what I've been told on the ground is that Dublin gangs have set up networks in Cork and are backing local drug dealers in the intimidation. So there you go, like, the spilling over now of drug gangs from Dublin down to Cork because, Cork being the real capital of Ireland, and they're seeing that now. I always have to get that in there, don't you, as a Cork fast, man. But, the drug gangs are seeing the opportunity down here in Cork now, and they're spilling over from Dublin, and what that's going to bring with them is an escalation of the violence down here in Cork. How long now before we're going to be seeing the guns from Dublin find a way to Cork? We've already seen guns being seized here in Cork, but we're not seeing the level of violence on the streets of Cork here in relation to drug dealing that we're seeing up the country. But for how long more? How long more? Because look, Deputy Gould here, TD Thomas Gould, is aware of these drug gangs. Apparently people in the community are telling him about these drug gangs, getting their roots now into these communities. And again, how long before we see an increase in violence here? As the headline says it, somebody's going to be badly injured or worse. Or worse. Again, go back to this one. Or worse. Fucking somebody shot dead. So we go on. We finish off his comments there. T. Thomas Gould says he raised the matter with the guards because these people, local people, were not reporting it to the guards. They were coming to me instead. And this is because Thomas Gould can be trusted to respect confidentiality. Somebody can come and disclose something to him and he can disclose it to the guards, and then there's not a worry there. Why is this worry there? Because again, the guards are not infallible. The guards, well, what's the average wage of a guard in Ireland, to be fair? Come on, an average wage of a guard is somewhere probably in the region of 40 to 50 grand. That's probably being generous, is it? I think a guard starts off in the 30,000s. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. But again, how much are organised crime gangs making? And if you got drug gangs from Dublin coming down to Cork, how much money have they got access to? Again, look at this news article coming out of Dublin. 1.2 million worth of cannabis resin above in Tala. So how much money have these guys got access to if this is the level of drug supply that's going on, out there? And like they take hits like this and that's just a part of doing business. Tells you how much money that they're able to kind of have at the side. So again, how easy is it to buy off a couple of guards? How easy is it? Tell us there if anybody comes in and makes any certain disclosures. Again, I know certain people out there who work within the Garda Reserve, and they're doing administrative duty in the offices. Again, how easy is it to corrupt one of them? Tell us there if you see somebody coming down and any useful information there, we give you 5 grand. Fuck, 5 grand? What? Stop. Really? Alright, come here, I seen so-and-so come down there and they met with a guard and they were telling them about drug intimidation. There's 5 grand, but yeah, not a bother. The next, your man gets a knock on the door and a bullet to the head. Oh shit, son. So again, you can't trust the guards. You really can't. So Thomas Gould says that's why he raised the suggestion that the National Drive project is rolled out, and he talks about the drug-related intimidation and violence engagement programme. Again, what a waste of time. Just fucking call a spade a spade. The prohibition of drugs is creating a situation where organised crime gangs are out there intimidating fucking people within our communities who run up a debt with them because of the prohibition of drugs. Again, if there was no prohibition of drugs, if the drug market was regulated, again, cannabis, for example, if it was regulated, like alcohol, can you get into debt with your local off licence? No. If you were an alcoholic and you went down to your local off licence and you said, come here, get a bottle of wine there on tick, they would laugh you out the fucking door, like, wouldn't they? Like, in fairness, unless you had a good relationship with them and they trusted you, like, as like a once-off kind of a thing, like, but that you wouldn't be allowed rack up a debt where they're going to be saying to you, hey, come here, you have to start selling a couple of bottles of wine there now, or you have to start storing some whiskey at your gaff for us. Come on, like, it doesn't happen, and it wouldn't happen if we didn't have prohibition. But Thomas Gould goes on to say, as an evidence-based programme aimed at protecting those at risk of and currently experience drug-related intimidation, it is vital that this is rolled out soon. I'm just looking for some resources to be put into tackling this problem because it's getting worse. Again, looking for some resources because the resources are fucking drawn thin already and we're wasting them because of prohibition. He says, I know 2 people who have businesses here in Cork who have had to pay their sons' debts. Again, their sons' debts. How this is, again, not making it a sex thing, but again, this is very much a male-orientated thing. And again, fathers having to pay the debts of their sons, or mothers having to pay the debts of their sons. Do you know, it's horrible, and all because of prohibition. I know other people who have had to go to the credit union, take out loans or take out their savings. Others have tried to raise the money through bank loans to clear the debts. Horrible, like, again, this wouldn't happen with your off licence. Again, Deputy Thomas Gould, listen to me. Call for an end of the prohibition of cannabis. If you're worried about the young people out there in their community, the gateway for them to organised crime gangs and to this drug debt intimidation is through the prohibition of cannabis. End the prohibition of cannabis and you can end this entry point for young people to this fucking violent, this violence and all of the nastiness that goes with it. It's horrible. And families, families don't have to be carrying that burden then any longer either. He goes, they're threatening everything from beatings to death. And this could be over amounts for as much as €12,000, which is the largest I heard of, but they could be much larger. And it seemed to me that they are trapping people by applying interest rates to the initial debt. So there you go, like they're not only having to pay the debt, but they're having to pay an interest on the debt. Like that, the organised crime gangs are acting as a bank in some way, and you can see how a person then is always just trapped then in there. Like, if you're only ever paying the interest and never paying the principal, you're never going to clear your loan, are you? And again, how can you trust a criminal to treat you fairly? And again, think if you're a person out there who's never done good at maths, and if you're never able to do your addition and subtraction, how easy you could be preyed upon then again. So Thomas Gould finishes off here saying that so the level of debt owed can escalate quite rapidly and would be way beyond what the original amount was owed. It got to a point now where I fear that it's only a matter of time before someone is severely hurt or even worse. And Gardaí say they currently have a drug-related intimidation reporting mechanism in place with contact details available for each division on the Garda website. But again, who's using it? Like, there's no trust there for the Gardaí any longer. That the Gardaí are corrupt, they're not reliable. They're corruptible, and they're not reliable. So again, resources being wasted, and calls for more resources to join the force so that they can be wasted also. And as I said there, above in Dublin, actually, just briefly touched off of this, but 1.2 million worth of cannabis resin was seized above there. So again, 1.2 million, think about that in terms of tax for the country. If we were to slap a 20% tax on that there, you're talking about €240,000 that could be used in the local community. Think about €240,000, what that's going to do. That's a home for somebody built by the local council. Do you know how many hospital appointments is that? How many surgeries is that there for people? How many I don't know how many how many meals is that for a homeless person? €240,000, and our government are turning their nose up to it. They won't even engage in a rational and adult conversation about this. We got people like Frank Fian calling the prohibition of cannabis a health-led approach to drugs. Madness. Absolute fucking madness. Sorry, ranting on there about that. But yeah, that's over there on breakingnews.ie if you want to go out and read that. Business premises, and a couple of people arrested. 2 men in their 40s and 20s were arrested during the course of the search, and they're detained under Section 2 of the Criminal Justice Trafficking Act at Garda Station. That happened last Friday as well, guys. And he's, yes, there's another headline I wanted to hit off of there with yourselves, guys. Many of you have probably seen this one. And again, chronic cannabis user made threats to kill his mother. And again, like, what this actually should read when you read into it is a mentally ill man while in a mental hospital in what was described as cannabis-induced psychosis threatened to kill his mother. So again, the headline is very clickbaity, I suppose, really. Like, there's just people out there, Mary Cannon now and Bobby Smith, they probably got all excited when they seen this one. It's like, see, cannabis makes you crazy and violent and all of this stuff. Like, but in reality, this guy's obviously got some underlying issues there. That this guy is not of the mindset of a person who should have been consuming excessive amounts of cannabis. This guy was over in Amsterdam at the time of his psychotic break, and he ended up in a mental institution over there, or a psychiatric hospital. And while he was there, he was sending threatening and abusive messages to his mother, and threatened to kill her. But again, think about it. Like, this guy was not in a good place. This was a mentally ill man made threats to kill his mother. It wasn't a chronic cannabis user. He was a cannabis user, sure, but like, was he an alcohol consumer? Like, is that a detail that they're leaving out there? Why would they be leaving that out? Does the independent.ie get maybe a sponsorship from time to time from a certain whiskey company, or maybe a couple of wine bottles, wine brands? It's hilarious, really. Like when you kind of look into it. So this guy was actually in a psychiatric hospital. He was doing. He was very unwell. They describe it as being in a cannabis-induced state of cannabis-induced psychosis. But again, maybe this guy had some pre-existing conditions there. I don't know. But he was up in court anyway recently as a result of the threatened messages that were being sent to his mother while in that state. Again, when a guy is in a mentally induced state of, or in a state of psychosis, like, is he really fucking, like, come on, like, or he made threats of killing her, like, but it's like, he was mentally unwell. He shouldn't have had his fucking phone. Why did he have why did a mentally unwell man have his phone in a psychiatric ward? Should they have phones? Really? I don't think they should. I don't know, but again, maybe that's ethics of patient care. I don't know. But anyway, that's another one. Again, like this, I just think this is again a very transparent effort made by mainstream media to demonize cannabis consumers again. Like how like it doesn't get any clearer than that this was the motive of the headline is to paint cannabis consumers in a negative light. That's my opinion anyway. I don't know what you think. Jared Kelly saying that he was raided last time. One guard was a female drug squad member who used to be addicted to coke a couple of years ago. All swept under the table, but we still remember as she walks around my house. That is absolutely hilarious. I think I remember that one as well. I think there was a couple of incidents there within the Garda Force, but there was one particular one where I believe it was a female member of the force who was kind of exposed as being a cannabis, or not a cannabis, a cocaine user. But there's been a number of them as well. Tinkle Tink saying that Tom Tyler, you're right. It's all about feeling superior. And Tom Tyler saying, I get the impression that the police and politicians don't care about these people being victimized by gangs because they're drug users. Yeah, they don't. They don't. They have no sympathy for drug users. It's okay to discriminate against drug users in current day society here in Ireland. It's just probably the only community of people you can go on and call junkies and, speak about them in all sorts of derogatory ways. And I've had it happen to me. I've had people speak about, how the services should come and take away my kids from me because of my use of cannabis. Like, man, that shit cuts deep, if you were to be a sensitive person. Obviously, I'm a bit more tougher now on the surface, thankfully. But shit, man. George Kelly says, if you think our Leo doesn't enjoy drugs with his anal, we're lying to ourselves. It's just normal people using drugs are scumbags to the elites and their drugs. Yep, that's true. There's one law for us and another law for them. I'd imagine Leo has he admitted in the past to using MDMA. So again, he's no stranger to drugs, that's for sure, and he's admitted it. Tinkle says, what really cracks me up is listening to the guards preaching about health regarding drugs. Meanwhile, they have drinking parties all the time up in HQ. Yeah, that is hilarious. And you see over in the UK that there's this one company that I think they do like a blue gin, and proceeds from a purchase of a bottle of gin go towards like the UK police retirement funds or something like that. Anyway, something to do with the cops. The cops get kicked back off the old alcohol company over there. It's fucking hilarious. Like, Jared Kelly says photos still exist of her off her game throwing shapes with the logo. Be good if you can't be good. Don't get caught. Nice. John Finnegan says, mostly pollen knocking around these days and shouting that one out to my stowaways. Nice, at least you can get some nice pollen, hopefully. It's been a while, actually, since outside of what Daily Talker sent to me, actually. Daily Talker hooked me up with a nice little nug of some hash. Still holding on to a nice little nugget at there, as well as we will get a 2J giveaway hopefully in a not too distant future. Where are we at now over on YouTube actually with the subscribers? We did have a bit of an exodus there of subscribers on YouTube for the time. I think that stopped, I think. The numbers are still down. 1979 though. I think we were at 1986 there when we fucking done the 1J giveaway. But anyway, not to worry. I'm not too worried about the numbers, but we will do a 2J giveaway once we hit the 2,000 subscriber mark. Others out there. Shawnee Shakta says, a woman in my area filled out the time capsule part of the census with a rant about the corrupt Garda and the fact they sell cocaine. Nice, good stuff. I asked the question, is cannabis and psychedelic mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms, are cannabis and psilocybin mushrooms still illegal? Hopefully not. You would think in 100 years' time that cannabis prohibition and prohibition of drugs at large has just been lifted. Psychedelic therapy available, you know, where it's needed and when it's needed. MB Sanchez here says, my friend from Scotland says that London is awash with vomit every Friday night, but at least it's not cannabis, right? That's unfortunate. Alcohol is definitely not a good healthy drink. No, it's not. You know, I definitely think that if we had access to cannabis as an alternative there, you know, and it was socially acceptable to go out and socialize while consuming cannabis, then we would see a reduction there. I think the cannabis offers a harm reduction alternative to alcohol in society in terms of drugs that people would use to socialize with. You know, as I enjoyed a bit of wine there earlier on, and a little bit of cannabis with it, it would reduce your amount of alcohol you would consume if you were to be consuming some cannabis with it. And if you were to be a sensible person, if you didn't overindulge yourself. Yeah, somebody kicking in there in the background. Never mind that person. But yeah, definitely I do think that if cannabis was to be legalized and a socially acceptable drug to be consumed out there, it would reduce the effects of alcohol, and definitely would probably reduce the amount of vomit you'd see on your streets. As people who enjoy cannabis definitely don't tend to throw up, at least not that often. It tends to be the newbies. It's the newbies. We drive on with the news then, and we get to the last headline of the day then, is it? No, it is the last headline of the day. And yes, it was. We got a bit of a spoiler there in it there earlier. And it's the headline coming out of The Guardian that secondhand bong smoke is worse than that from tobacco smoke. And this study is comparing smoke that was done in a bong using cannabis and smoke that was done in a shisha using tobacco. Now, the thing about this study, and again, I think it's a bit disingenuous to use these two, because I think if you were to use a bong to smoke cannabis and to smoke tobacco, that you would find that it was the bong itself actually was the generator of the particulate, you know, because of the way in which the combustion happens in the bong. It generates so much smoke and particulate that the numbers are going to go up. When you're using the shisha, when you're using the hookah, and the shisha, then the tobacco that goes in a hookah, that's going to not have as much particulate, is it not? Because like, is the shisha not in a form of like a block? So again, I think that the two, it's apples and oranges. That it's not a very comparative. It's not an equally comparative study, and some of the findings in it, they're saying that there's like 5 to 10 times more particulate from the cannabis than there is from the tobacco. But again, 5 to 10, that's a very freaking wide range. Like, you know, what was the study? And then when you look at the study, how it was done. It was a bunch of students that they brought their own bongs, they brought their own cannabis, so there was no real control over it. What was the control over the tobacco side? I didn't actually get access to the full published study, but I'm not too sure how the tobacco side was done. But again, I think the study was very low quality, and I think that the study had a predefined outcome in mind. I really do think that the study was looking to have this kind of an outcome where they were able to kind of say, hey, the smoking of cannabis is worse than that of tobacco, because if they wanted to just consume, compare like with like, why didn't they just take herbal cannabis with herbal tobacco and put the students in the room and say, right, this bunch is going to smoke the cannabis and that bunch is going to smoke the tobacco, and we'll swap later on. Like, and they should have put predefined way, a regimented way in which the cannabis and the tobacco was going to be smoked as well, so that they were comparable. They put no controls there. So again, the guys who were smoking the cannabis, they probably smoked way more cannabis than the tobacco group. The tobacco group was not instructed, and the cannabis group were not instructed as to how much to smoke. So again, if you're going into a room and it's like, yes, days and boys, the cannabis group probably fucking treated it like an old sesh, like, they were having an old party. Whereas the shisha group, they were kind of like, yeah, we're probably, we're just volunteering to do this, and yeah, let's just, oh yeah, this is nice. And they're not all that excited. But the cannabis group, they're like, fucking woo, cannabis study, woo, blowing the smoke at the sensor and everything, So again, I think the study was of very low quality, and again, I think that the aim was to come up with this kind of sensational headlines where journalists were going to kind of look into the study and going to repeat it in their articles then. So a very low quality study. So that's my opinion on that there, guys. So that's all of the 420 news today, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure to deliver it to you guys. As you heard there, I had some company jump into the studio there a few minutes ago. I'm not too sure if you all heard. And a few giggles going on there behind me. I could pick it up on the headphones. Therese O'Connell says, good to have you back on. As I said, it is great to be back. I really do enjoy getting on here, delivering these shows. I wish I didn't have to be doing this. I wish that if I was doing it, that the news was filled with much more positive news, that we didn't have prohibition, that I was on here highlighting the positive side of the cannabis community, that like, hey, this not-for-profit local cannabis collective were able to take some funds and, put a new swing and slide there at the local park because the swing and slide was fucking falling apart and the local council were doing nothing about it, I would love if that was the scope of the show. But unfortunately, because of prohibition, again, the toxic nature of prohibition, we got a lot of negative headlines, unfortunately. Again, if we didn't have prohibition, I suppose one positive thing of prohibition is we probably wouldn't have Martin's World. Because I wouldn't have the drive, I wouldn't have the motivation to be out there doing this, because there would be no need to do it if we didn't have a prohibition of cannabis. But anyway, the show is a pleasure for me to deliver, guys. And yeah, and MB Sanchez, I definitely agree with you. Alcohol is definitely not a good healthy drink. And John Finnegan, yes, you did. You heard the boss man in the background. You definitely did. He popped into the studio there in the background as there was probably a few items of his lying there. Hunter says, great stream as always, Martin. Have a great weekend, bro. Nice one. And guys, I got to give a big thank you there to the Hunter. Hunter is sent some seeds my way. I talked about it in the past, but they should be arriving very soon. And guys, I do believe we are now safely past the last frost. So for any of you aspiring guerrilla growers out there, guys, get your seeds a-popping. Do it on windowsills at the moment. At least that way, over the next 2 to 3 weeks, if there's any surprise fucking overnight frosts, at least you're going to be on a windowsill inside, safe from that. But I do recommend that, like, this is the time now. Get your seeds popping indoors if you intend to get something planted outdoors. Get it to a nice 6 to 12 inches indoors. A nice hardy little plant there, a nice sturdy little plant. Acclimatise it then to outdoors gradually. Then, if at all possible, move it outside to a sheltered spot before you plant it into wherever it is you intend to finish your plants. Guys, if you want a good successful harvest, I would recommend autoflowers. I really would recommend getting an autoflower. Seed banks to go to, guys. I think Sensei Seeds are a really good seed bank to go to. They're over in Holland. Holland are at a latitude and along the, that position on the globe. They're in the same growing region, I believe, as some of Ireland. So they've got some good varieties there to go for. Again, there's probably other seed companies out there. Fast Buds have got some nice autoflower genetics, but again, I don't think those would be acclimatized for outdoors, but maybe some of them are. Some people in the hot box are probably shouting out suggestions there. But guys, just let it be said, this is the time. This is the week, or the weeks now. April is the month. Get your seeds popping if you want to do some outdoor grows. If you start now, guys, if you use autoflowers, it's possible you could get 2 to 3 harvests over the coming months. Autoflowers, they tend to finish. They range from maybe 12 to 16 weeks. I would recommend getting the longer ones, possibly. But sometimes the longer ones actually tend to have a bit more of a sativa kind of a background, which is not favourable for the Irish climate. So again, keep that in mind. Again, look at the genetics of what it is that you're buying. Stephen Cavis says freezing temps expected later this week. I looked at the 14-day forecast for Cork, and it was all above 2 degrees. Everything was above 2. 2 was the lowest I seen on the overnight temperatures for Cork. But maybe it's different for Wexford. You're a bit higher up, aren't you? Again, probably for Dublin, probably for the Midlands and stuff like that, higher up the country, probably have got different things. But down here, the sunny south of Ireland, I think we're safe. So maybe just for any of our Cork rebels. But again, guys, if you're out there in Wexford, if there's a frost, as I said, coming later on this week, just make sure you haven't planted anything out yet. I'm giving the heads up to get going on your windowsills. Windowsills is where it's at now over the coming weeks, because for any gifts of sunshine we get there during the daytime, if you're on a windowsill indoors, you're going to get a lovely greenhouse effect there behind that window. Just make sure it's not at the front of your gaff, visible to any public roads and all of that stuff. And yeah, good suggestion there as well. Dutch Passion. Dutch Passion have got the Frisian Duck Autos. So that's coming in there from John Fingan. He says Frisian Duck Autos for the Irish outdoors, I hear. And that was coming in as well from Evelyn Corrigan. That was the woman who got caught with 3 cannabis plants worth of cannabis. I think it was like 350 grams of cannabis she got caught with. And she said it was 3 cannabis plants she grew. So that's a nice old bounty to get from 3 outdoor cannabis plants in Ireland. So there you go, guys. Frisian Duck. Fresian Duck. I believe it's Dutch Passion who stock those. Again, another Dutch company. Dutch Passion. Gorilla Gusto. That's one I've done myself, guys. That's coming in from Miss Stowes. It's an amazing variety to grow here in Ireland. I've not done it outdoors, I've done it indoors. It was my very first cannabis plant that I grew, Gorilla Gusto. An amazing one. It finished fucking incredibly. It was a weird looking plant, but it was an amazing finish. It was cool. But yeah, it's supposed to be really good outdoors, and that's why I got it. I intended to grow it outdoors, but then I was just like, feck it, I'm doing it indoors and I'm going to do it good. And yeah, that I did. Niall Knox says, put under a CFL now for 3 weeks and plant outside 1st of May. Yep, there you go. CFL as well is another good one. Low energy consumption and has a kind of a low heat output as well. But again, if you don't want to be getting light, honest to God, guys, the windowsill it'll be enough to get you through. Work with what you got. If you got the CFL, if you got the money to buy the CFL, go for it. If you don't, guys, don't use it as an excuse not to do it. Sunshine is coming down free every day there now in Cork for the last 2 weeks, except today. Today was a cloudy day, but still there is light coming in, and it's enough. It's enough. Hunter's given a suggestion here. He says there's Dutch Passion, Sweet Seeds, and some WSE ones in that pack coming to you, Martin. Nice one, Hunter. One is strain that grows black too, apparently. Nice. That sounds like an interesting one. Some lucky growers out there going to be getting those. Some lucky listeners of the show. Oh, still have a little bit of vape left in this. Might fill her up one last time. Oh, Nile. Nile is a nice suggestion here as well, guys. It's not an auto variety, but it is one that he has experience with, apparently down in Cork, in the outdoors. So it is Passion #1 from Dutch Passion. He says, don't get the, it's not auto, it's a fully feminized version. He says it has high THC and a monster yield last year outdoors in Cork. So there you go, guys. So get that one down on the list as well with the Frisian duck. Make your pick, whichever one you might be, or get both of them if you can, and add the Gorilla Gusto to that list as well. So there's 3 great suggestions coming in there, guys. So you have Passion #1 from Dutch Passion, Frisian duck from Dutch Passion, and Gorilla Gusto from Sensei Seeds. So there's your outdoor recommendations for the Irish environment. And again, guys, this is the week to be getting popping. Get a head start now. Get it popping indoors. Get them ready. And, you know, come 2 to 3 weeks' time, you'll have a nice little plant there, a couple of inches tall. You can put that in the outside of the windowsill, then allow it to get used to the outdoor environment, you know. And then plant it out in a nice private spot. Excuse me. Scatna says, nah, windowsill is unreliable in my opinion. Any day without sun causes mad stretches. That is very true. That is very true. I've had some mad stretches there, and you get some lanky seedlings that fall over and stuff like that. But again, that's not a major problem if you're going to be planting outdoors later on. Again, because you can plant it a bit deeper, so that mad stretch that you get, and any part that you plant underground, it then becomes a source. It can become a source for rot, but more often than not, it becomes a source for roots to grow out of. Once it goes into that humid environment, it tends to just send a signal to the plant that, hey, this is going to be a new root environment now. So again, it is a problem, but it's not a major one, I suppose. But yeah, it can happen, definitely. Any days, like a day like today now, at the moment, it can cause mad stretches. But again, I've seen some people do some amazing work on a windowsill. So, but yeah, I've seen some failures. John Finnegan says, cool Wells, I will be up in Dublin soon, may pay them a visit, although I have a shit ton of seeds, want different strains though. Go on, John. John becoming a seed collector. MB Sanchez giving some important information here as well. Says, be careful not to overfeed because that's what attracts pests and diseases, guys. So while nutrients will promote your plant's growth, it will also promote the growth of certain diseases and pests. So be careful out there, guys. Hunter also saying, to be honest, I think one of the others is a red-purple colour too. Nice. Nice. It's always good to get the mix of colours there. So the cool thing about cannabis, like it's not only a plant that offers a variety of flavors and odors and stuff like that. You know, the appearance of the plant as well. The colors that come in it, really cool. I had some of that crystalline entity actually. It was pink. Had a pink flower. Really cool. So our John Fian says, plant a banana with your seedlings outdoors. Nice. For the potassium, that's right, yeah, potassium. There you go. And as the banana naturally breaks down by the beneficial bacteria and the microbes and stuff like that in the environment, they release the potassium, then that gets taken up by the plant. Yeah, Mustawiz as well, giving a good reminder there, people, that if you do bring a plant back inside, that it's possibly likely covered in bugs, etc. So be careful. Yeah. And my advice there would be, if you're going to be putting a potted plant outside that you intend to bring back indoors, put it on top of something. preferably do not put it down in the grass because worms are going to want to go into it. And then when you bring it inside at night time, you're going to have like worms coming out of your potted plant and crawling all over your windowsill. It's great to have worms in your pots, but it's balls then when they start to leave, especially when you're indoors. I've never had pink keef, variable gardener. I've not had that happen at all. I've had pink flowers though, where the actual inflorescence itself, the flower, would be pink, but not keef. I've not seen the resin go pink, but I heard it happen. I've heard of it going purple. I've heard of it going pink as well. So it's definitely possible. I've just not had it. And variable says he or she, sorry, has made a little bit of purple hash before. Very nice. Variable gardener is actually possible, but he and she, as he is or she is, variable. Scatna says bringing plants inside also breeds whiteflies, aphids, and other shithead bugs. I've had that on my tomatoes and chilies a few times. Yeah, you just have to be very careful where you put them outside. A good thing about putting them outside too is you might actually introduce some predatory bugs. I've had plants at my back garden and I've seen some lovely ladybirds attracted to them. Possibly because of the attraction of other pests in the garden to that plant. And hence the attraction then of predators to the plant in a turn. So yeah, while you do tend to get more of the negative, it's also possible that the good happens too. Hunter says, sent you a pic of the serious there, Martin. Nice one, Hunter. Nice. There you go. That's one of the seeds that's been sent down there by Hunter. Serious. I imagine maybe that's a Harry Potter reference, the Sirius Black. I don't know. And just guessing. Very nice though. Legend. Nice one for that, Hunter. So guys, as it's we're almost rolling up in 2 hours. I've got no more news for you guys, and we're kind of towards the end of the comments there in the hotbox. It's been an absolute pleasure to be able to come on here and deliver a couple of news articles to you today. It's been even more of a pleasure to be able to kind of shoot the breeze with you in the hotbox. Guys, if you want to continue it, just remember the link is in the description of the show there today. If you want to join the 24/7 hotbox, if you want to continue the conversation after the show has ended, click the link in the description if you've got Telegram on your phone. Or you can download it onto your laptop and stuff like that as well. And you can join that hotbox. If you're at all concerned about the public nature of that, join the hotbox. Find me in the hotbox. Then message me privately in the hotbox. And you can leave the hotbox then afterwards if you're not comfortable with being there. And through that, you have a direct line of communication with myself on Telegram if you would so wish. So yes, hit that link, guys. Join up the 24/7 hotbox. The conversation continues after the show ends. Keep in mind the conversation over there tends to go askew at times, as it is the hotbox. People do be hotboxing, and the conversation can go anywhere at all. But it is a good crack. Jimmy Touchdown out there in the audience today. Jimmy Touchdown, again, thanks very much for your patronage, and to all of the other patrons out there as well, guys. Thanks to all of you guys. There's been many of you tuned into today's show as well as the show went on. I believe at one point in time there we had over 60 viewers watching at once. So that's great to see. I really do appreciate it, guys. I really do appreciate as well all of the kind messages that were sent in through that rough week that I was having there last week. Guys, thanks very much, and I look forward to getting back on here as well on hopefully Wednesday. I do have it on my schedule that I'll be able to get on here Wednesday at 4:20 to do another couple of headlines from the cannabis news from around the world. But if I don't get on Wednesday, I will certainly see you Friday, guys. So until then, guys, stay blazed out there, keep her lit, much love. Peace. Bye bye. Doing a Mackie, Bye bye.